one is that see how to make use of this life that we have in a meaningful way. That on a daily basis we keep doing something, and then eventually we will see the progress. Whereas if we don't make a daily practice, then we don't really invest anything there. And then, of course, we will study once in a while, and we may read some materials, but accumulation is not happening. So for that matter, what we're doing is just for that purpose, not that we have to do this. So otherwise we can have the classes, all these things without morning practice. The morning practice is particularly for those, say some people, they have lots of sadhanas to do, but without getting time to practice. So see how to take a little time to actually practice from what you learned. And some people, they think about the practice without any learning. So for them, the practice means like recitation, mantras. This is not the meaning of practice. It's just the aids to make the practice and there's be something viable. But the practice, I think the battery. Okay. For that matter, 3 points to keep in mind. One is refuge field, number 2 bodhicitta, number 3 is the purpose of this practice. First, the refuge field. For the refuge field, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the enlightened beings who you see as the source of inspiration for you. Inspiration pertaining to cultivating the unconditional love of bodhicitta, unconditional love of compassion, and the wisdom to see the interdependency. Okay, for me to go into little detail of these, some of these, the inspirations, and even if you may not be able to identify some of these as the teachers, don't worry. Just imagine that the whole space, the sky in front of you, is filled with all these great enlightened beings, like the Buddha Shakyamuni, Holiness and the surrounded by Arya Nagarjuna, Arya Najushri, Arya Teshvara, Arya Maitreya, Arya Vajrapani, Arya Geshe-Lharampa, Arya Samudbhadra, Arya Akasha-Garbha, Arya Thara, Arya Nagarjuna, Arya Deva, Buddha Parita, Acharya Nagabodhi, Acharya Chandrakirti, Bodhicaryavatara Shantideva, Bodhicarya Rakshita, Acharya Kamalashil, and then Arya Sangha, Acharya Vasubandhu, Acharya Dignaga, Acharya Dharmakirti, and then the Lama Selimba from Indonesia, then the Lama Disha and the Kuripani Sambhava, Sajan Kumwayimbo, Saki Pandita, which is in Tilopa, which is in Naropa, which is in Marpa, which is in Mela, Taupa Hache, Lamatsu Kapa, Geshe Rinpoche, Kishu Rinpoche. And how you visualize them, that makes all difference. Visualize them as like your very affectionate parents. I imagine that you come home demoralized, bullied by other children at school, and your parents are waiting there to give full love, affection, attention, and praise. To what extent you can visualize this, the manner in which you visualize intensity of the love that you could feel being demonstrated by the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, to that extent is your refuge, becomes stronger and more stable. Bodhisattva field visualize the two parents or two sides, and all of them members, including children, and everyone here in Montfort College, and everyone in Bangalore, India, in this world, in the Milky Way galaxy, and in the entire universe. And how you visualize that? You are like the mother here, and all others, they are like small children meaning, who do not know what is tomorrow, what will happen after 5 years, 10 years, next life, and so forth. And you, somebody like the mother, seeing further away in time and space, you feel so compassionate towards the beings for the ignorance, not being able to see far and wide, and because of which they behave very differently, very short-sightedly, and thus are trapping themselves in all the miseries, endless miseries. And the purpose of this practice is to awaken this beautiful Buddha nature that exists within each one of us. And this Buddha nature, like a gold when mixed with the soil, it does not shine, it doesn't glow. The gold experts will tell us that there's gold there, not to dump this. This is so precious. They will remove the soil gradually, and the gold inside will start to glow. Likewise, we have the Buddha nature, we have the seed of perfection inside us. Each and every sentient being has the seed of perfection, the Buddha nature. The manifestation of which will manifest in the form of total fearlessness, experience of fearlessness, and the infinite happiness. And why we don't see them is like the gold not visible when mixed with the soil. So this gold of the Buddha nature is mixed with the soil of mental defilements. And the mental defilements are of two kinds, the gross and the subtle. The gross one referred to as the afflictive obscurations, and the subtle one referred to as the cognitive obscurations. And the gross one, afflictive obscurations, the presence of this stops us from achieving fearlessness or the nirvana, freedom from samsara. And the subtle one, cognitive obscuration, stops us from achieving the infinite happiness, which is Buddhahood. And how we get rid of these? For that we need to identify the nature of these mental defilements. The first one, the gross or afflictive obscurations, is of three kinds. The contaminated karmas, afflictions, and the active seeds of the two. And all these three somehow hover around. The fabric of these three is the self-grasping ignorance. So unless and until we get into this self-grasping ignorance, we cannot get into the afflictive obscurations altogether, without which we cannot achieve the total state of the fearlessness of nirvana. For that matter, we need to introduce the counterforce, which is the wisdom of emptiness. Just as the darkness can be eradicated, dispelled by the light, it is only through introducing the light of the wisdom that the darkness of ignorance can be eliminated. And so this wisdom must be supported by a very strong sense of renunciation, wishing to achieve the total freedom from samsara, or achieve the state of the fearlessness. Whereas the cognitive obscuration, the subtle one, it is like the smell of the garlic. After removing the garlic, the solid garlic, and washing the container so well, still the smell remains. Likewise, after removing the afflictive obscuration, still the smell is left there. This smell is known as the afflictive smell, which is metaphorically said, signifies the afflictive cognitive obscurations. And the presence of this blocks us or stops us from achieving infinite happiness or the Buddhahood. And for this, again, the remedy remains the same. This smell is nothing but the smell of a very subtle smell left by the self-grasping ignorance and its offshoots. And the remedy remains the same, the wisdom of emptiness. But to what extent this wisdom of emptiness by the motivation. And the motivation, it is just the renunciation, you cannot get rid of this self-spin. So the motivation must be the motivation of very powerful bodhicitta, unconditional love, desiring to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So this bodhicitta must be supported by great compassion towards sentient beings. And that in turn, this great compassion must rest on the renunciation. So this is how this should be the reflection. Finally, with very powerful motivation, bodhicitta grounded on the renunciation, and then resort to the wisdom of emptiness to eradicate the mental defilements, both the afflictive as well as the cognitive, in order to achieve the aspiration in the fearlessness and infinite happiness for yourself and for all Tibetan sentient beings. With that in mind, let's turn to page 3. And you are doing this, and all sentient beings are joining you. And all the Buddhist Bodhisattvas, they are watching us. Page 3. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. You, the Bodhicaryavatara, are the homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Bodhicaryavatara, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Bodhicaryavatara, I pay homage. Sangye chola zoge chonamda chanju bardo dane yasu chi dage jinso gebe sonam ki chola venjre sangye dubara shu sangye chodan zoge chonam chanju bardo dane yasu chi dage jinso gebe sonam ki chola venjre sangye dubara Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Na Chanju Bardo Dane Gyatso Chi Nage Jinso Gebe Chonam Ge Dola Benjir Sangye Dubara Shu Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Bardo Dane Gyatso Chi Nage Jinso Gebe Chonam Ge Dola Benjir Sangye Dubara Shu. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Independent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness, no sameness. I persuade to the consummate Buddha, the Supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace, which is the freedom of aberrations. I persuade to the mothers of the hearers, the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers seeking pacific complete peace, who through the knowledge of past causes souls have been migrated to achieve the ends of the world, and who through the possession of omniscience have subdued and expanded a variety of teachings. The one who has transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teachers, rather than protector to you amid frustrations. The one who has eliminated the level of conceptualizations, vast and profound, who eternally transport the forever noble light rays to you, the Buddha, amid frustrations. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I join the mind full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Yavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Bhati Mahashamanaye Swaha process as well as dogmatic grace here. Profound, peaceful, elaboration-free, clear-eyed and non-composite. Such a natural Dharma I've discovered, finding no one who can fathom this teaching in silence or retirement the words. Beyond utterance, thought and expression is the professional wisdom, which is not born on sees and has the nature of space, is the ultimate apprehension of self-realized wisdom. To you, the mother, the Buddhas of 3 times are sins. All composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of the nature of suffering. All phenomena of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Unceasing sorrow is peace. The Guru is the Buddha, the Guru is the Dharma, likewise the Guru is the Sangha. The Guru's souls are everything wholesome, are good for affishing the Guru. By the sound of the vibrant drum of Dharma, you liberate all pains of miseries. I beseech you to kindly remain and give teachings until the end of the expansive feelings of eons. The Buddha does not wash the negativities of beings, nor does he remove the miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of the success that the beings are liberated. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine light of Dharma for all who would in misery's glow. If you are attached to this life, you are not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Okay, all these stanzas, the verses, they are picked up. For the reason that they're extremely profound. They contain the meanings, the gist of the Buddha's teachings, and today I think what we'll do is okay. So page 6. The stanza which we read, profound, peaceful, elaboration-free. So this one is the stanza which the Buddha said to the king of celestial beings, Indra and Brahma, when they descended to the planet Earth. After seeing that the Buddha was not giving teachings, he was remaining silent for 49 days. So the king of Indra and Brahma, the kings of the celestial beings, they descended, and then they made prostrations to the Buddha, and then beseeched the Buddha, please don't remain silent. Start to give teachings to turn the will of Dharma, to liberate the beings from samsara. Then the Buddha said, utter this stanza. The profound in Tibetan, in English, profound, peaceful, elaboration-free, clear-eyed and non-composite. Such a nectar that Dharma I've discovered. So all these 6 years of his practice, very serious practice, led him to discover this, the wisdom of emptiness. The wisdom of emptiness, and wisdom of dependent origination. These are 2 sides of the same coin. And having discovered this reality, which the Buddha described as profound, extremely profound, that hardly anybody around that time could fathom the depth, very profound. And one's experience is extremely peaceful, where all your tension, stress, anxiety, everything dissolves. Peaceful, elaboration-free. If you could remember from the 5 points which we learned yesterday, elaboration referred to the self-grasping ignorance. So projection of things, like the dream, projection of dream stops. So what we learned was that the dream, the problem with the dream is that one is we fail to identify that the dream as dream. We see dream is real, this is one problem. And the worst problem is that you don't have the freedom to choose the dream, which means the lack of freedom, dissatisfaction, lack of freedom. Lack of freedom is misery. So the moment the dream is created, you are already trapped in lack of freedom, because you don't have the freedom to choose this dream. So the best thing is stop the dream. Stop projection of things by your mind. So that is stop the self-grasping ignorance. That is the elaboration-free. Elaboration, you are freed from the elaboration of the self-grasping ignorance. Then clear light, that experience, when they the self-grasping stops, that experience that feel is the mind is so pure, like a clear mind, non-composite. That experience is not something which is composed of the part, composed of the material parts, composed of the temporal parts. It's free of the material and the temporal parts. It's non-composite. Such is the natural Dharma I've discovered. This is what I've discovered. Finding no one who can fathom this teaching in silence or in eternal words. This is what the Buddha said. So the point is that what we are learning, the Seedling Sutra, Rajasthan Sutra, it is actually means to discover the reality which the Buddha discovered, and the Buddha was a little hesitant to teach because of seeing that this is very profound and the people around, and he cannot really find the right person who can learn this at the time. Okay, this is the stanza, and then the next one is again about the wisdom of emptiness. Finally, what can really liberate us, from suffering, what can really guarantee the infinite happiness is the wisdom of emptiness. So depending on what we are doing, setting the proper motivation, depending on what motivation that you have, that will determine what this wisdom of emptiness will do, whether to eradicate just the afflictive obscurations, to give you the fearlessness, or to get rid of the cognitive obscurations also, to give you the fearlessness plus the infinite happiness. Okay, so this wisdom of emptiness is described as beyond utterance. So now here, wisdom of emptiness is the subject, and emptiness is the object. Earlier, the profound, peaceful elaboration frame, so there, this can be understood in both ways, subject and object. Emptiness and wisdom of emptiness is the subject. So here, beyond utterance, this is the emptiness, object. Now the description of the emptiness, which is beyond utterance. This emptiness that you're experiencing, not just emptiness in the form of nothingness, emptiness in the form of emptiness of independent existence, emptiness of objective existence. That is beyond utterance. Your word cannot adequately express it. Thought, even your thought cannot adequately conceptualize it. And expression, you cannot adequately express it fully. Of course we can express it, the Buddha taught it, which means the Buddha expressed it, taught it, but like the taste of a chocolate. We can say the taste of a chocolate is very good, it's very nice, it's like this, it's like that, but the real taste, you can feel it only if you taste it. Likewise, the beyond utterance, thought and expression is the professional wisdom. Okay, so that is more in line with the emptiness as an object of this wisdom, which is unborn. This emptiness has the nature unborn, meaning unborn. The opposite of unborn is something which is produced dependent on the cause and effect. So this emptiness is something, this ultimate reality, emptiness is something which existed since time immemorial, since beginner's time, and it really exists altogether. So in this expanse of the emptiness, then the mind, like on the very empty screen, then the movie project a movie on the screen. So likewise, on this expanse of the emptiness, then the mind project the conventional realities. Okay, so it says that beyond utterance, thought and expression is perfect wisdom, which is unborn. So what we see as born, what we see as produced, they are all projected by mind. Like this building of Montfort College, maybe it started since when? How many years ago?
In the 80s.
In the 80s. So in the 70s, before that it was not existent. And it came into being. It came into being, born, came into being. 2017 came into being after 2018. And 2019 will disappear, 2020 will come into being. So, yet, emptiness, this ultimate reality is something unborn. It's not created by the causal conditions. Unborn, unceased, and it will never cease. The emptiness, ultimate reality, that pervades the whole expanse of the universe will never cease. and has the nature of space. Just a space does not have the obscurations. Likewise, this emptiness is not marked with any of the obscuring phenomena, like space. Is object of apprehension, self-realized wisdom. The real experience of this emptiness, the nature of this emptiness is to be realized, is to be experienced only by the wisdom, which is known referred as self-realized wisdom. Why self-realized wisdom? Is that we study all these things, study Tibet Sutra and so forth, and from this we will get a picture. From this picture you have to go deeper. And like as you said, first you create a picture of the pizza, and from this then you go in search of where the object which this picture represents is found. You have to go in search of that. So with this reflection, we'll go into after studying Tibet Sutra and other texts. You got a picture of the pizza. With this, then we go in search of where we can get this object, which is represented by this, through study, reflection. Then you go deeper, then you find it. So that mind which finds that is known as the self-realized wisdom. In other words, initially we will get the conceptual experience, followed by the non-conceptual experience or the non-dual experience. To you, the mother of the Buddhas of the three times, to you here, to you is not a human being. To you here is not a human being. It refers to the, okay, in two ways. One, the object, emptiness, and also the subject, the wisdom which sees the emptiness, non-dual wisdom which sees the emptiness. It is this non-dual wisdom which is the mother of all the Buddhas, means like Buddha Shakyamuni, then the Buddha Kashyap, and all these Buddhas of the past, they become Buddha because of this wisdom, which realize the emptiness. So this wisdom is referred to as the mother which gave rise to all the Buddhas of three times obeisance. Okay. This is one very important stanza. Okay, now we go to page 14. Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. Page 14. Okay, when we read the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, we're not to think of, okay, if I praise the Buddha Shakyamuni, then Buddha Shakyamuni will be very pleased, and then he will bless us. No, this is not the way we should think. Whether we praise the Buddha Shakyamuni or not praise the Buddha Shakyamuni always loves us. This is the reality. Okay, with this, the point is that then why do we have to do this? It is number one. It is to identify the qualities on the basis of which the Buddha Shakyamuni was praised. Identify. It's for our own growth. Having identified these qualities, see if some of these qualities are within you. If you have, rejoice and see how to nurture them further. If you don't have these qualities within you, then coming to know that these qualities are the qualities on the basis of which somebody becomes enlightened. Likewise, I also have the seed of the profession. I also have the seed of these qualities. So, because that I also have the seed of these qualities, I need to cultivate these qualities. And to nurture them, eventually become Buddha, so that if one is more focused on the self, then I will achieve the fearlessness and I'll achieve the infinite happiness. If you're more concerned with other sentient beings, then I will achieve the fearlessness so that I can grant fearlessness to others. So that I will achieve the infinite happiness, I will grant the infinite happiness to others. So this is whether somebody is more inclined towards the self, or more inclined towards others. In both ways, this is a great opportunity for us to learn what are the qualities on the basis of which I can help myself and I can help others. Okay, this is what we should be, the manner in which we should read and reflect upon. To the founder, the endowed transcendental destroyer, the one beyond. before his Choe, completely perfected, full awakened being, perfect knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knew the world, supreme God of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completed, full awakened one, endowed transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, the superior from the Shakya clan, a prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When all supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, flame that blazes the 3 worlds, ring of the bells of God, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face that is spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus be like you, the 3 worlds are not, incompatible wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit, the qualities like vast ocean, to you that the Tathagata I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated will also show the path of liberation, wholly qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the Sangha I prostrate. Do not come in any non-virtuous actions, but from only perfect virtuous actions, severe mind authority, this is the teaching of the Buddha, a star, a visual aberration, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may such things attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the 4 faults, and be delivered from samsara's solution, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Okay, next is Heart Sutra, page 29. Heart Sutra. Shantideva. Till what time? 7:30?
7:30 is okay, but we can go till 8 also.
No problem.
No problem. We have breakfast at 8.
Okay, good. Okay, next is Heart Sutra. Heart Sutra, I'll quickly explain this. Of all the teachings, finally, what can really liberate us is the wisdom of emptiness. Let us keep this in mind. And that, don't just believe in this. This is so important. Don't just believe in this. The moment somebody says, wisdom of emptiness is the one which actually liberates us from all the fears of life. Finally, what we see, what's the purpose of our embracing the, say, teaching of the Buddha, or embracing your job, embracing your family, embracing your, say, the identity as Indians, Singaporeans, or Americans, or French. Shweta? What? Complicated? Okay. Okay, so we see that as a Tibetan, so embracing any identity, okay, so the identity, embracing the identity as from this nation, that nation, this is more from birth. But as a religion, we say, some they're born and just flow with this. Others they think and then embrace something. Some people embrace Hinduism, some people, with thought, after giving thought, then you just embrace Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, Judaism, and some people prefer not to be associated with any of the religion, institutionalized religion. Okay, there must be a reason why you're doing that. What we explored a little bit on day 1. That's why we are doing this. Why? Because that way I feel happy. This is the answer, finally. That way I'll be free from, that way I think I'll be free from the fears of life. That way I'll be more happy, less fear. And we don't really think about infinite happiness or total fearlessness. But at least we thought about more happiness and less fear. But is this your aspiration? More fear, more happiness and less fear? Answer is no, this is not the only. If possible, 100% infinite happiness and total fearlessness. If this is the case, then the Buddha is saying that yes, I found a path. I found not the path which the Buddha discovered, not the path the Buddha invented. He said this, I found a path, I discovered it. I discovered it, that is the wisdom of emptiness. So, he was sharing this wisdom with us, not that he invented it. This wisdom existed, this reality existed way before the Buddha Shakyamuni was born. He discovered that. And then our job is to see whether it works. Try to, first of all, get it, this wisdom of emptiness, get it. And this wisdom of emptiness, unlike single-pointed meditation. For single-pointed meditation, of course, if you are younger, that's better. But for wisdom of emptiness, for sure, it requires the best of your brain, best of your intelligence. Without this, the wisdom of emptiness is very difficult. So therefore, the seeing that wisdom of emptiness is the liberating path. Buddha himself very clearly said that all the teachings that he gave of the classified in two groups, the liberating path, the teaching, or in other words, the liberating path and the ripening paths. Liberating path and the ripening path. Liberating path, he said, is only the wisdom of emptiness. Wisdom of emptiness is the liberating path. All other teachings on impermanence, on suffering, and then the emptiness of autonomous substantiality, and generosity, and all these teachings are meant to ripen this wisdom of emptiness. And bodhicitta, compassion, renunciation, they are to give you a sense of urgency, so that this wisdom can be triggered within you. This is the whole purpose. Finally, our job is to trigger this wisdom. Now, to what extent this wisdom can cleanse our mind and give you the fearlessness, or to give you infinite happiness, that is determined by the motivating force. So therefore, the wisdom of emptiness is the most important thing. And meanwhile, keep in mind that don't just believe in it. Don't just believe in what I'm saying. Okay, he said it. It must be said by the Buddha. Even if the Buddha said it, the Buddha made it very clear. Don't take things of what I said simply because you respect me. Just as goldsmith, they test the purity of the gold by cutting rather than burning the gold. You should also examine my words and put them into practice, not simply because you respect me. This is so important advice given by the Buddha, that don't just follow because that you think that, oh, what this person said must be correct. No. Learn the wisdom of emptiness and see if it has really effect in your mind. When you see that is effective, it can this can be used in two ways, the wisdom of emptiness. One, the wisdom of emptiness with this, once you get a glimpse of this, you will identify the self-grasping ignorance very clearly. Then, once you identify self-grasping ignorance very clearly, you will see the how the self-grasping ignorance gives rise to the inappropriate attention, gross afflictions, contempt karmas, and the miseries. You can see it very clearly with a glimpse of emptiness. Then this is how the miseries ensue. And with the same wisdom of emptiness, then you will see how to curb, how to mitigate, how to eradicate the flow of the negative flow of our mind, and instead be driven towards the virtues, the wisdom of emptiness, and then all the virtues, how they grow. So this is the main teaching of the Buddha. This is the main practice that we should embrace, and we see that I personally, maybe some of you, I don't know if Venerable Abdullah knows that I have a little bit of skeptic mind since my childhood. A little bit of skeptic mind. I don't really take things so easily. But the good thing about me, I'm so happy about, is that I don't accept things easily, nor I reject things easily. If somebody says it, I take it, I don't accept it. I take it for analysis. This is the best thing. I don't reject easily. Some people, they reject very easily. Some people, they accept so easily. And then we end up in problems. So, if somebody says, take it and subject it to analysis. If it makes sense. If it makes sense, you adopt it. If it doesn't make sense, discard it. Without analyzing it, don't discard it like this or adopt it easily. One. Then number two, very important thing is that we have to acquire skill. Acquire skill, which is a very important skill. Say, okay, let's say, house. House, there are so many grades of house. And even, for example, the candies, there are so many grades of candies. And then we got the first candy, low-grade candy, and then we have never seen the other candies. So we think that this is the candy in the world. And then you will only answer this candy. And even if somebody gives you chocolate, you say, no, I want this the candy one. Because you have never tasted what chocolate is. So we need to acquire a skill. Okay, maybe we never know. What the other person is giving me can be better than the first one. But don't just rapidly jump and discard it. Discard the first one, jump to the second. Don't do that. Take the first one, keep it with you. You know what the first one is. And then go to the second and see if it makes sense. Then we see that there's a wonder. For example, some people, they're so fascinated meeting with, some Dharma teachings like single point meditation or any practice, so fascinated, and then you think that this is it, this is Dharma. One time I was in Mumbai, and there was a young Indian boy, and who was doing the chanting. You know what I mean. Chanting. Then he come out after like 20 minutes. Then he saw me and he told me, "You are a Buddhist." I said, "Yes." You do chanting, right? For him, Buddhism means chanting. So if I say no, then what are you doing? It's a Buddhist. You are not a Buddhist, right? If I say yes, then he will get the impression that I was doing the same chanting as what he's doing. That I spent all my time, on chanting. This is what he was going to think. So I did not really give the answer. Yes, I do chanting. Then he said, "How long you are doing the chanting?" Which means for him, Dharma means chanting. If you do long, you will do a good job with Dharma. If you do short, you are doing not too serious with the Dharma. This is what is in which I will see it very easily. Oh yeah, I do this sometimes. So because then he was asking a lot of questions, I started asking questions now. I asked him, "Do you know what chanting you are doing?" He said, "Yes." "Do you know what's the meaning of that?" Then he said, "No." The meaning of that is, I pay salutation to the Lotus Sutra. This is meaning. When you pay salutation to somebody, that somebody must be very special. I pay salutation to Lotus Sutra. Lotus Sutra must be very special. Did you read Lotus Sutra? Have you seen Lotus Sutra? I asked him. He said, "No." So why should you chant this if you don't see the value of Lotus Sutra? I prostrate to Lotus Sutra. I make salutation to Lotus Sutra. Have you seen Lotus Sutra? He said, "No." So first, to see this chant is so precious, you must see the preciousness of Lotus Sutra. Then chant it, it will make sense to you. It will have a value to you. So Lotus Sutra, I will tell you. Lotus Sutra, I've seen it. I'll tell you the content, gist of the content. How this Lotus Sutra will actually liberate you. You think that chanting this will liberate you. How does Lotus Sutra will liberate you? You liberate yourself from the dream, and the dream will not affect you. Wake up. This is what the Lotus Sutra is teaching. Wake up from the sleep of the one-dimensional reality. Wake up from the sleep of the miseries. This is what the Lotus Sutra is teaching. And you must study Lotus Sutra if you want to appreciate this chant, if you want to dedicate so much of time on this. So without identifying who this person A is, you say, "I prostrate to person A, I prostrate to person A." But it doesn't make any sense to you. So this is what many people think. So this is how we have to acquire a skill whereby you should be able to eventually pick up the best pick up what can actually liberate you from the fears of life, what can actually give you the infinite happiness. That skill must be acquired. If you acquire the skill in this life, then next life you're born as a young girl or a young boy, and then you may be born in any tradition of Buddhism, whatever religion, whatever, even non-believer, but you still have that imprint of the skill to pick up the best, that skill. Being very objectively pick up the best. That skill is so important. Otherwise, there's by your karma or whatever, somehow you are, somehow you are born somewhere, and you think that this is the world, this is everything. Unfortunately, it may not have the capacity to give rise to the infinite happiness and the fearlessness. Finally, your job is not to become a Buddhist. Your job is to achieve the fearlessness and achieve the infinite happiness for yourself and to share this with other beings. This is your job, not to become a Buddhist. This is not the idea. Become a Buddhist is just a label. It's a label. Finally, by doing anything, by doing business, if you get the fearlessness and happiness, infinite happiness, do it. That is your path. That's your path. By following physics, by following pure physics, if you achieve the fearlessness and the infinite happiness for yourself and for others, this is your path. By doing nothing, if you achieve the fearlessness and infinite happiness, this is your path. It's not about Buddhism. It's not about you qualifying as a Buddhist. This is not the point. The point is to achieve the fearlessness and the infinite happiness. That is the key. So for that matter, we need to acquire skill. His Holiness the Dalai Lama so beautifully said, if science is able to disprove rebirth, I will be the first person to embrace this concept. So this is where it's not about following an ism. It's about the goal. What are you seeking? That day when you were born, what have you been seeking? Everybody is seeking fearlessness. Everybody is seeking infinite happiness. This is who we are. So anything that will take us closer towards accomplishing these two goals, that is your path. It's not about any ism. It doesn't matter. Say, the wisdom of emptiness, we realize that before Buddha Shakyamuni, this wisdom of emptiness existed. Before Buddha Shakyamuni, emptiness existed. Only Buddha discovered, he did not invent it. He discovered that. So anybody, if to be qualified as a Buddhism, then what about those enlightened beings before Buddha Shakyamuni? So the point is not to fall into an ism, but to look for a system that will take you to what you aspire, infinite the fearlessness and infinite happiness. Okay, with this what we learn is that the wisdom of emptiness is the one which can actually liberate us from suffering and which can actually take us to infinite happiness. So the wisdom of emptiness, the Buddha taught so extensively, and of these what the Buddha taught extensively is summarized in this Heart Sutra, essence of the Sutra, Heart Sutra. Okay, this is what we're going to read here. And this, we can see that, to give a quick background of this, Buddha Shakyamuni was presiding over the congregation in Rajgir in Valshaspet. And then Arya Nagarjuna was there, also reflecting into emptiness, and Shariputra was there. And Buddha Shakyamuni went into deep samadhi. And Shariputra asked this question to Arya Nagarjuna. Arya Nagarjuna responded. Shariputra asked the question, how should child of the lineage, this is very important, how should child of the lineage practice the perfection of wisdom? This was a question asked by Shariputra. And the question asked by Shariputra was all blessed by the Buddha Shakyamuni, inspired him to ask this question through telepathically. Telepathically, the Buddha Shakyamuni inspired and blessed Shariputra to ask this question. So the question was asked, how should a child of the lineage practice the perfection of wisdom? Okay, what do you mean by child of the lineage? And some people translate it as a son of the lineage. This is not a good translation. It should be the child of the lineage. Because it should encompass not only the males, it should be encompassing both the males and the females. Because this involves nuances. Tibetan answer until one is so good in Tibetan, just by knowing Tibetan on the cursory form will invariably make the person to translate as son of the lineage. But if you know the language into the depth, then you say it's not a son, it is a child. Because, like, for example, even in Hindi, say the parents, they call the daughters beta, right? Do you call them yes? Yeah, beta, beti, there's another word, beti is there, but still you call beta. So beta is a common word for the girls and boys. Likewise, pu is the Tibetan word, pu. Pu does not necessarily mean boys, although there are two words, pu, pomo. But pu is the overarching label for both gender, and then if you subdivide this, again, pu and pomo. So otherwise it should be translated as child. Where specifically it is mentioned pu, pomo, then you can translate it as sons and daughters, or the boys and girls. Okay, so how should the child of the lineage practice professional wisdom? Child of the lineage. What do you mean by child of the lineage? First we have to know what the lineage is, then the child of the lineage makes sense. For example, in the past, in the olden days, they say the princess, the prince, they were considered as very important. And just a 1-year-old child, 1-year-old boy, referred to as a prince, is considered so important. Why? Because he is the holder of the lineage of the kings. Because what do you mean by the holding lineage? He was going to become the king. Likewise, the lineage of the kings, the lineage of the Buddhas, lineage of the Buddha is much, far more important. Lineage of the king at most can help the subjects, maybe like say few million people. Because the lineage of the Buddhas, when you become Buddha, you can benefit the infinite beings. Few millions is nothing. So therefore, lineage of Buddhas is much more important than the lineage of the kings. So now the child of the lineage, meaning if the lineage of the king, the lineage of the king, the holder of the lineage of the king is very important, then the holder of the lineage of the Buddha is even more important. Who are these? Who are these? Anybody who aspires to become a Buddha, so this child is going to become a king. Anybody who aspires to become a Buddha is the holder of the lineage of the Buddhas. So anybody who aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings is the child of the lineage. So we can be the best of the lineage holder, child of the lineage. Because you are the child of the lineage, you have made a commitment. What commitment? That I will become Buddha for the benefit of sentient being. To become Buddha, how to become Buddha? By the Buddhahood inside us. The Buddhahood is inside us. The seed of perfect gold is inside us. You don't look for the gold from outside. Gold is inside us. It is not visible because of the defilements. You have to remove the defilements. What will actually remove the defilements? The wisdom of emptiness. So, how should the child of the lineage practice the perfection of wisdom? To become Buddha, you have to transcend mental defilements. Mental defilements will be removed by the perfection of wisdom. How should one practice it? Because you made a commitment, you have to practice it. So how to practice it? This is the question asked. This is very profound. From this we will know what is the real dharma. From the Heart Sutra we can know what is the real dharma, the wisdom of emptiness. So therefore the tremendous emphasis should be made in this life. We must make it a point that we study, reflect and meditate to emptiness as much as possible in this life. Along with the Bodhisattva practice grounded on renunciation. That is so important in this life. And don't think that, oh, okay, I'm not really an intellectual person. Some people, I don't know, so they are failing themselves. They say that I'm not really an intellectual person, I'm more into practice. Why don't you practice if you don't have the materials to practice? There's someone from one country, I will not mention this, one country, otherwise the person, if you happen to listen to the recording, will discover, okay, he's talking about me. Recently I received a message saying that, Geshe I'm not really into intellectual thing, I'm more into the practice. Can I go to this, the practice of what? Practice of Vajrayogini, the something retreat, with one that, the Western teacher who I never heard. This is very sad. Never ever underestimate your potential. Never ever underestimate your potential. It's not that whether you are intellectual or not intellectual. Even the intellectual is also dependent originated. Everything is dependent originated. If you're not intellectual, you can make yourself intellectual. If you're not practitioner, make yourself practitioner. Everything is dependent originated. Create the factors dependent upon which you can become this or that. This is what we have to do. And finally, practice for what? To become Buddha. Buddha is the wisest person, the most intelligent person. So without cultivating the intelligence, how can you become the most intelligent person? This is totally, the Yedama Hetu Prabhu, all the phenomena arise from the causes. Cause of non-intelligence, how can it give rise to the most intelligent, the faculty? So this is, from this Sutra will come to realize what's the real Dharma. And some people, what they go to some, some retreats of the single point of meditation. And then as I said yesterday, that there's always the fanatics, including Buddhism, even in Buddhism, not Buddhism I should say, Buddhists. People who claim to be Buddhists, they're also fanatics everywhere. Jainism I don't know. Otherwise everywhere with the Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, what else? Sikhs, once the Indira Gandhi problem was because of these fanatics. So fanaticism, the fundamentalism is everywhere. Okay, so the point is that when you go to this retreat or this place where single point of meditation is taught, they say that don't do any other practice. Don't do any other practice, just do this practice. This will take you to Buddhahood. This is where we are going wrong. So therefore we have to acquire a skill whereby not to follow blindly. The moment we submit yourself in blind faith, finish. You will end up nowhere. You will simply waste your time and destroy your life. So this was what I heard. Okay, so the point is, you want to say follow Buddha, not want to follow Buddha, it's up to you, that's individual. If you think that you're following the Buddha's teachings, then look at a very standard text like Sutra. From there you will see what is the real teaching of the Buddha. That's the point. So here it says that how should the child of the lineage practice the professional wisdom? This underlines, this tells us exactly what we should be doing if you want to achieve Buddhahood or infinite happiness or fearlessness. This exactly tells us. So the whole response was given by Arya Nagarjuna as to how to wake up from the sleep of ignorance so that you will not be affected by the dream anymore. Okay, good, we'll read this. Page 29. I prostrate to the Arya Nagarjuna. Thus did I hear at one time, the Buddha was dwelling on Vajra's mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Buddha was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Master of Arya Nagarjuna looked upon the very practice of the profound illumination of wisdom and beheld those five entities also as every inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Master of Arya Nagarjuna: how should any child of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of profound professional wisdom train? He said that the Bodhisattva Master of Arya Nagarjuna said this to the Venerable Shariputra: any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of profound professional wisdom should look upon it like this, greatly and repeatedly beholding those five entities also as their pure inherent nature. Form is empty, emphasis form. Emphasis not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composite factors, and consciousness is empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are empty, without characteristics, unproduced, unseen, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composite factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation of power. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the professional wisdom, the mind without obscuration, thus without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifest the complete awakened, unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment, relies on the professional wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of professional wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, mantra equal to the unequaled, mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of professional wisdom is declared, Om Gade Gade Para Gade Para Samgade Bodhiswa. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound professional wisdom like that, that the Buddha arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravadutishvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound professional wisdom just as we have indicated, even that Tathagatas rejoice. The Buddha having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravadutishvara, who surrounding the entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras and gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Buddha. Okay, as we recite this mantra, let us visualize that Buddha Shakyamuni is exhorting us thus: don't remain in the fields of samsara. Come to his ultimate happiness by unraveling the treasure, the hidden treasure of Buddha nature in yourself. And you hear in this melodious voice of Buddha Shakyamuni, imagine that you are informing this to your two parents, to your children, to your family members, to every sentient being, the human beings, the animals, the insects, the spirits, god and goddesses, the hungry ghosts, helpings, and everyone. Look, this is what a compassionate teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, is exhorting us. Let us not remain in the fields of samsara anymore. Let us all go towards enlightenment together. Come along with me. And everyone so happily joins you in this journey of cleansing the mind and traversing through these five paths indicated by you. Gade Gade Bala Gade Bala Samgade Bodhi Swaha. 7 times together. Om Gade 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 truth. May any our ignorance be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be non-existent, may they be pacified, may all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 spirits be pacified, may we be separated from problems and conditions harmful to the Dharma, may all the joys be in accord with the Dharma, may auspicious and perfect happiness pervade this place now. Okay, next, page 35. It was for train the mind, page 35. Finally, to traverse this path towards Buddhahood, we need two things. One is the very sharp, the traverse path which blocks us from achieving this goal of the infinite happiness for yourself, for others, is the poisonous tree of the self-grasping and self-centered attitude, this poisonous tree, page 35. And this poisonous tree must be cut. To cut that we need two things. One, a very sharp axe is required. Number two, very steady and strong hand. Steady and strong hand with the very powerful enthusiasm, the motivation. So the axe, very sharp axe, is the metaphor for the wisdom of emptiness. And the very strong, the strong hands, stable, the strong hand with the enthusiasm, the strong determination to cut this poisonous tree is the bodhicitta. Okay, so wisdom of emptiness, the Heart Sutra, we included that here to tell us that the wisdom of emptiness is very important. Now, 8 verse of my training is put here, but there are so many teachings on the wisdom of this Heart Sutra. That's very concise, short. And that was the 8 verse of my training. This is not for any other reason included here. It is primarily to tell us that we need the motivation, very strong motivation of compassion, of bodhicitta. So this 8 verse of my training is to inculcate, or is to instill in us a very powerful bodhicitta. And the opposite of the bodhicitta is, the support must be the great compassion. What's the opposite of compassion? Anger, ego. So ego must be subdued, anger must be subdued. If you want to cultivate the unconditional compassion to give rise to bodhicitta, ego must be subdued. Ego, and the ego gives rise to anger. Very easily you will be irritated and you become angry. So that must be subdued. And 8 verse of my training is primarily to subdue the ego. Subdue the ego, subdue the self-centered attitude, and thus subdue the anger. Once the anger is subdued, then the room is left for you to generate compassion. Compassion will naturally flow when anger is subdued. Okay, for that reason. Otherwise, the 8 verse of my training, when we read this, we may get the impression that, okay, it's very self-denial, it's actually to crush our ego. Self-denial, okay, I give the victory to everybody else, and I take the suffering of myself, I take the loss. So this is not a self-denial, it is they undermine the ego, self-referential ego. Okay, meanwhile, it doesn't mean that we have to lose our self-confidence. Self-confidence is very important. Oftentimes people equate the two things, self-referential ego and self-confidence. So what this text is teaching us is to subdue the ego and boost your self-confidence. Self-confidence is the basis for all the virtues, and ego is the basis for all the non-virtues. Okay. With the determination to achieve the highest aim, for the benefit of all sentient beings, we steadfastly with the wish-fulfilling gem, may hold them dear at all times. Whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as lowest among us all, and from the very depths of my heart, respectful whole others the superior. In all my deeds, may I probe into my mind, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront them and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, and those oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as I have discovered the true treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrong with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer to others the victory. When someone whom I've helped or on whom I've placed great hopes mistreats me in extreme or hurtful ways, may regard him still as my precious teacher. In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all the hurts and pains of my mothers. May all this remain undefiled by the stains of the eight mundane concerns, and may I recognize all things as illusions, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. Okay, the next stanza is added from the Dervish prayer to boost the self-confidence. From our two collections, vast space that have amassed for working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief agent Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom eyes planted in ignorance. Okay, the next seven in practice. Page 37. Seven in practice, the purpose. Again, we need to know the purpose. The purpose is that we are undertaking this journey. We are undertaking this journey. For the journey, the road must be clear. For the journey, the car should have enough fuel. Road must be clear, meaning road is your mind. Your mind must be clear. Your mind must be clear of the obstacles or obstructions by the boulders, the trees, and so forth of the mental development. So we have to remove the mental developments to the best we can to undertake this journey. Number one. Number two, to undertake this journey, the car must have enough fuel. The car is none other than your mind. So this mind must have the enough fuel of the merit. So in other words, to undertake this journey, the road must be very clear and the car should have enough fuel. Your mind must be clear of the mental developments and your mind must have enough fuel of the merit. The best way by which to cleanse them out of the mental developments, to accumulate the fuel of merit in a very efficient way, is by the practice of these seven practices. Seven practices, they are making prostrations, making offerings, confessing the negativities, rejoicing in the virtues of all the pains, and then making the request to all Buddhist Bodhisattvas to remain and abide, and then the dedicated request for teachings, and dedicated virtues properly in a proper way. Okay, these seven practices. So these seven practices, in the following stanzas, we see that they are quite self-explanatory. So they are not that difficult. So as we read this, see that the meanings are reflected and see mentally how you can actually involve yourself in engaging in these seven practices. Okay. I bow down to youthful Arya Manjushri, you the Buddhas, the lions amongst humans, born to freedom in the present, past and future, in the world of 10 directions, to all of you with body, speech and sincere mind, I bow down, with the energy of aspiration for the Bodhisattva way, with a sense of deep respect, and with as many bodies as atoms in the world, to all you Buddhas visualized as real, I bow down. On every particle are Buddhas numberless as atoms, each amidst a host of Bodhisattvas. And I'm confident that we are all phenomena is entirely filled with the Buddhas in this way. With infinite oceans of praise for you and oceans of sound from the aspects of my voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas and celebrate all of you Sugatas. Beautiful flowers in the little garden, sweet music set to the walls and pedestals, sparkling lights and sublime incense are offered to you towards amongst the Buddhas. Fine dress and fragrant perfumes, sandalwood powder heaped high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings in spectacular array offered to you glorious ones. With transcendental offerings, peerless and vast, with profound admiration for all the Buddhas, with strength of conviction in the Bodhisattva way, offered by down to all victorious ones. Every harmful action I have done with my body, speech and mind, overwhelmed by attachment, anger and confusion, all these are openly laid bare before you. I lift my heart and rejoice in all the merit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions. Of solid realizers here is true training in those beyond, of all ordinary beings. You who are the bright lines and worlds in 10 directions, who attain the Buddha's omniscience through the stages of awakening, all you who are my guides, please turn the Supreme Will of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly request you who may actualize Parinirvana. Please stay with us for aeons, numberless as atoms in the world, for the happiness and well-being of all wonders in samsara. Whatever slight merit I may have accumulated by making prostration, offering, and confessing, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas teach, I now dedicate all this for the full awakening of all beings. Okay, mantle offering. A mantle offering is to again to reinforce the accumulation of much merit within a short span of time. Mandala has a connotation of the universe. Mandala has a connotation of the whole world. Mandala has the connotation of your own body, and the mandala in the form of the dimension of the deities. It has many connotations. So here mandala refers to the mandala of the universe. Everything good the universe has, you offer this to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to accumulate as much merit. Okay. This ground adorned with the perfumes, with flowers, alone with Malmiru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha fit to offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. And then after making this, offering this mandala, then we make the two requests. These two requests, the first one was written by Venerable Kabupa, the student of Geshe Lharampa, very powerful teachings. And the next by one of my teachers, Venerable Buddhism, the set of four, the remaining four. These four encompass the whole teaching of the Buddha, what we should be practicing. We can simply see this in these four the lines, and what we should be actually doing to wisely embrace your life with the practice. These four practices, you are complete. You're complete, and for that you have to check, not just believe in it. Okay. May I be blessed that my mind is directed towards the Dharma. May I be blessed that my Dharma practices on the proper path. May I be blessed that the path is free of flaws. May I be blessed that flaws are seen in the light of exalted wisdom. Becoming utterly frustrated with ignorance that grasps at true existence. Please bless me with genuine renunciation, seeing all aspects of samsara as vicious and repulsive. Please bless me that my mind stream overflows with the precious bodhicitta that cherishes others more than myself. Please bless me to have an immaculate experience of the wisdom of emptiness that does not see even an atom of intrinsic reality, on the basis of understanding how things come to being by dependent origination through mere conditioning. Please bless me that my mind overflows with the precious wisdom of the non-duality of bliss and emptiness. Edam Guru Radha Mendela Okay, the four dharmas of Venerable Bhikshu Mahasattva. The first one is a renunciation. Finally, if somebody is to tell you, tell me very concisely what should be practiced in my life, so that my life is full of meaning, the greatest of meaning. 4 points. Number one is, point indicated here is renunciation. What exactly does mean by renunciation? It will tell you there, whole meaning is given there, number one. Number two is bodhicitta. And what exactly is bodhicitta? Again given there, number two. Number three is the wisdom of emptiness. Number four, the practice of non-duality, bliss and emptiness. These four, you have these four, this is complete. So you have to check that these four are indeed the complete part. For that, check. How to check? First you have to learn from somebody that what am I looking for? How can I achieve that? What I have as a basis. Okay, 3 things. What am I looking for? How to achieve that? And then what basis, what ground I have to follow this path to achieve that goal. The goal that we are seeking is fearlessness and the infinite happiness. Do you agree with me or not? For yourself and for others. Do you agree with me or not? If you agree with this, then the fearlessness is like the fears in the dream. What's the best way to get rid of the fears of the dream? Wake up. Wake up to see the reality. That is wisdom. And for that, okay, this is one. Then number two is, for that the desire to wake up should be there. If you don't have the desire to wake up, okay, I should wake up to get rid of my fears, you will not put effort. So the desire to wake up, that is a renunciation, number one. Number one in renunciation. Number three is wisdom of emptiness, to wake up from the state of ignorance, number two. Then also you also want infinite happiness, right? Not only the fearlessness, but to infinite happiness. What's the infinite happiness? Infinite happiness will come to you when your mind feels the expansiveness, when your mind enjoys, say, when you feel the love and affection towards somebody, you feel the joy. And if you love the beings, infinite beings, then infinite joy will come to you. So, the unconditional love of bodhicitta, which is the infinite love for sentient beings, that is required for one to embrace the infinite happiness. Okay, and then what's next? So we are done with number 1, renunciation. Number 2, bodhicitta. Number 3, wisdom and emptiness. What's number 4? The non-duality of bliss and emptiness. Why do we need that? Okay, you want the fearlessness and the infinite happiness right now, or maybe after 10 years or after 20 years? When do you want it? Right now, right? As fast as possible. So as fast as possible, you have to expedite the path. The path, finally these are 3 paths. Renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom, these are 3 paths. This is also referred to as the 3 principal paths. Now, you want to do it right now, you want to accomplish the goal as soon as possible, or I can extend it after 10 years, 10 lifetimes. If possible, as soon as possible. For that, you have to expedite the path. So the 4th one is to help us to expedite the path. Okay, this 4 is the complete path in that sense. Okay. The next. Okay, today we will read this read the foundation of all good qualities, and then we'll stop here. From tomorrow we will take in the mornings. After this, then we will do the aspirational bodhisattva. Take the aspirational bodhisattva vow. Aspirational bodhisattva vow. Okay, bodhisattva vows. There are 2. Bodhisattva vows. There are 2 kinds. One is the engaged bodhisattva vow, and the other one is aspirational bodhisattva vow 2. That is, actually these 2 are for you to, they are very sound ground. They are very sound ground for you to germinate the sprout of bodhicitta. Germinate the sprout of bodhicitta, that should Buddhahood. So the ground is laid through taking these bodhisattva vows. So what we are doing is not the engaged bodhisattva vow. For the engaged bodhisattva vow, the commitments are very serious commitments are there. So until we are ready, we are not to take this easily. But nowadays, very easily people take the tantric vows also, right? Tantric vows means much more heavier, difficult than the bodhisattva vow. So we are talking about the bodhisattva vow. Be very cautious to take the actual bodhisattva vow. For that matter, unless you have some experience of bodhicitta, not necessarily full-fledged. Full-fledged bodhisattva vow, full-fledged bodhicitta, you become a bodhisattva. Even if you don't reach to that level, as long as, say, your compassion towards the beings, including the difficult people who are jealous towards you, who are unkind towards you, for small reasons, simply thinking of destroying you, even to these difficult people, your love and affection flows. If that happens quite naturally, even though bodhicitta is not full-fledged yet, you are eligible to take the bodhisattva vow. But for that matter, we have to know what the vows are. 1. For this, what we are doing from tomorrow, aspiration bodhisattva vow. For that matter, we don't, need to have this experience of bodhicitta, as long as you have a good heart. And the commitment is that from today onwards, I'll try my best to be kind towards others, to be helpful towards others. At least I will not be harmful towards others. This much, if you can commit yourself, you are eligible to take the aspirational bodhisattva vow. Whereas for the other one, engaged bodhisattva vow, of course the benefit, if you compare the 2 benefits of the 2, what the aspirational bodhisattva vow and engaged bodhisattva vow, of course the engaged bodhisattva vow, the benefit is far more. But for that, the whether we are eligible or not, we have to check. As I said earlier, you should have some degree of experience of bodhicitta. This is very important. For the second one. First one, anybody can take it. As long as you can, say, what we call in this world, in the conventional world, we say, oh, this person is very kind. If you can be, this much, if you can do this much, that I'll try my best, at least within your mind, I'll try my best to be kind towards others, at least I'll not harm others. If this is, and that too, to the best I can. This much if you can make commitment, you are eligible to take the aspiration Bodhisattva. Okay, from tomorrow. Okay, foundation of all good qualities. So now we are crystallizing the practice. So this is the one form of crystallizing all your practice. And this, what we're reading, the 14 stanzas here, 14 verses. If you want to go for the detailed explanation of this, there are 3 volumes. There are 3 volumes to explain this. There are 3 volumes, huge volumes, written in English. In Tibetan it's 1 volume, but it's huge. So translated to English, broken into 3 volumes. The great Tibetan is known as Lamrim Chemo. In English, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. If you want to study more detail each of these points, you will easily define them in this book, in these 3 books, 3 volumes. Okay, we'll read this and see, try your best to that the meanings are reflected as we read this. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and the perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless to rely upon him with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless to the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of riches and non-riches come and follow. So, firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all righteous deeds. Samsara splendors are unsatisfying and unreliable. Seeking them is the door to all suffering. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless with the general a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, and alertness in great caution arise. The root of the teaching is keeping the present of the vows. Please bless with accomplish this essential practice. Just as I fall into the sea of samsara, so fall mother migratory beings. Please bless with the status, train the supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. 3 types of morality are not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the Bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions to grow objects and correctly analyze the meaning of reality, please bless me generate quickly with new mind strength, the unified path will come about especially these sides. Having become a pure vessel by training in general path, please bless me to enter the holy gates of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges forever in life. And having realized the importance of the 2 stages, essence of Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never give up in 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teaching of the Holy Guru. And the spiritual friends who practice their long lives, please bless me to pacify completely all our enemy hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, Dharma, by completing the qualities of the stations of the past, I could attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, this mantra, Niksema, because particularly the wisdom of emptiness and the bodhicitta which we study, which I share with you, which we study, is more directly coming from Lama Tsongkhapa. And this praise was initially written by Lama Tsongkhapa himself, for his own teacher, Jesu Rendava. And then Jesu Rendava, what he got this, the verse as the eulogy or as a praise by his student, Lama Tsongkhapa. He read it and he said that this praise does not suit me. it suits you better. It suits you better. So then he deleted his name. He deleted his full name. Original version is this is the original version. So he removed his name and replaced this with his student's name. His name was added by his teacher. So then this became so widely recited all over in Tibet. Okay, so we will first say the English translation. Okay, the point is that the praise is that the Buddha's deeds can be seen in three forms. Can be seen primarily in three forms: the deed of the compassion, the deed of the wisdom, and the deed of the power. So finally, how the beings will be benefited. Also, the deeds are to benefit the beings. How to benefit the beings is by giving them the light of the wisdom. This is one deed. And this light of the wisdom must flow with compassion. Number two. And this wisdom must flow with such a power. It must be very effective, such a power. So anybody, so in other words, the Buddha is somebody who is endowed with these three perfect qualities: perfect love, perfect knowledge, and perfect power. And these three qualities, they are manifested in three different forms of the Bodhisattvas. One is Arya Nagarjuna, the manifestation of wisdom; Arya, the manifestation of compassion, of the love, or the love; and Arya Vajrapani, the manifestation of the power. So Lama Tsongkhapa, he was seen in the light of these three perfections. Seen in the light of Arya Nagarjuna, seen as Arya Nagarjuna, seen as Arya Avalokiteshvara, seen as Arya Vajrapani. Okay, first we'll say this in English, then we'll say this in Tibetan 3 times. Then we'll stop here. You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of non-referential compassion, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hosts of demons without exception. So about crown jewel of the sage land of snows, of Santa by your feet I make prostrations. Okay, now we'll say it in Tibetan with the tune. With the tune, for to say this in the tune, to suit the tune, we skip the third line. We skip the third line, but the meaning remains the same. We will say this together 3 times.
Yeah.
mind, we'll do 5 minutes breathing meditation. Okay, for the breathing meditation, 4 points to keep a bit in a row, right? Okay, 4 points to keep in mind. One is the body posture, and the two things which are so important, is number one is body upright, number two is the eyes not closed. Particularly for single body meditation, eyes not closed. Okay, and then the identify the errors. The 4 points. You can choose any meditation that you like. That's fine. Whatever meditation that you're familiar with, do that. And then the number 3. Identify the errors of meditation. This is so important. And this we need reminder as often. Identify the errors of meditation. One is mental laxity, and the other one is mental scattering or mental excitement. Mental laxity is where the mind, the inactivity of the mind becomes too lax, and to the extent of feeling the sleepy, lethargic, heavy. And then the other one is mental excitement, where the mental scattering happens, where overactivity of the mind. These are the 2 areas. Number 4, apply the remedies. When any of these 2 things happen, then apply the remedies. A remedy twofold, mainly remedies twofold. And then if you come to realize you're more prone to laxity or you're more prone to excitement, and there are specific remedies there. And if the remedies that I'm talking about, if it doesn't really help you so much, then you have to go to more detailed remedies. There are detailed remedies also there. Introspection, mindfulness. Introspection is once in a while, keep an eye on your mind to see whether the mind is still meditating or in the lax state or in the mental excitement, scattering. If you see that in a lax state or in the excited state, then apply deep mindfulness. Bring the mind back to the intended root of the meditation. Okay, 5 minutes, ready. Page 52, derivation prayer. I dedicate the various thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the three times, and to the upholding of the doctrine and scripture and insight. May I in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the four wheels of the Mahana of the evil, and accomplish all the stages of the path, renunciation, Bodhicitta, perfect in the two stages. From my two collections, vast space that I have amassed, for working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, Buddha for all those whose minds mismise blinded with ignorance. Yeah.